And Saul said to David, Behold, my elder daughter Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight God as a noun and verbs battles. For Saul said, Let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, Who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? But it came to pass at the time when Merab Saul's daughter should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel the Maholathite to wife, and Michal Saul's daughter loved David. And they told Saul, and the thing pleased him, and Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. And Saul commanded his servant, saying, Commune with David secretly, and say, Behold, the king hath delight in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. And Saul's servant spoke those words in the ears of Dawood. And Dawood said, Seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man, and lightly esteemed? And the servants of Saul told him, saying, On this manner spoke Dawood. And Saul said, Thus shall ye say to Dawood, The king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to be avenged of the king's enemies. Can't you just ask for a scalp or thumb or something? But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law, and the days were not expired. Wherefore David arose and went, he and his men, and slew of the Philistines 200 men. And David brought their foreskins, and they gave them in full tale to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal, his daughter, to wife. And dead or alive, don't uncover people's modesty like that. And Saul saw and knew that God as noun and verb was with Dawood, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him, and Saul was yet the more afraid of Dawood. And Saul became Dawood's enemy continually. And Saul spoke to Jonathan, his son, and all his servants, that they should kill Dawood. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in Dawood, and Jonathan told Dawood, saying, Saul, my father, seeketh to kill thee. Now therefore, I pray thee, take heed to thyself until the morning, and abide at a secret place, and hide thyself, and I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where thou art, and I will commune with my father of thee, and what I see, that I will tell thee. And Jonathan spoke good of Dawood unto Saul his father, and said unto him, Let not the king sin against his servant, against Dawood, because he hath not sinned against thee, and because his works have been to thee ward very good. For he did put his life in his hand, and slew the Philistine. And God as noun and verb wrought a great salvation for all Yisrael. Thou sawest it, and didst rejoice. Wherefore then wilt thou sin against the innocent blood to slay Dawood without a cause? And Saul hearkened unto the voice of Jonathan, and Saul swore, as God as noun and verb liveth, and he shall not be slain. And Jonathan called Dawood, and Jonathan showed him all those things. And Jonathan brought Dawood to Shaul, and he was in his presence as in times past. And there was a war again, and Dawood went out and fought with the Philistines and slew them with a great slaughter, and they flew from him. And the evil spirit from God as a noun and a verb was upon Shaul, and he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand, and Dawood played with his hand. And Shaul sought to smite Dawood, even to the wall with the javelin, but he slipped away out of Shaul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall. And Dawood fled and escaped that night. Shaul sent messengers unto Dawood's house to watch him and to slay him in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, told him, saying, If thou save not thy life tonight, tomorrow thou shalt be slain. So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. And Michal took an image and laid it in the bed and put a pillow of goat's hair. Rumbling the tumbly. Hungry for goat, right? For his brother, and covered it with a cloth. When Shaul sent messengers to take Dawood, she said, He is sick. And Shaul sent messengers again to see Dawood, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may slay him. And when the messengers were come in, behold, there was an image in the bed with a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster. And Shaul said unto Michal, What hast thou deceived me so, and sent away mine enemy, that he is escaped? And Michal answered Shaul, and he said unto me, Let me go. Why should I kill thee? So Dawood fled and escaped, and came to Samuel and Ramah, and told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and dwelt in Naioth. And it was told Saul, saying, Behold, Dawood is at Naioth in Ramah. And Shaul sent messengers to Dawood, and when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing as an appointed over them, the Spirit of God was upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. And when it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. And Shaul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. And then he also to Ramah, and he came to a great well that is in Setchu, and he asked them, and said, Where are Samuel and Dawood? And one said, Behold, they be at Naioth in Ramah. And he went thither to Naioth in Ramah, and the Spirit of God as a noun and verb was upon him also, and he went on prophesying, and prophesied until he came to Naioth in Ramah. And he stripped off his clothes also, and prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Wherefore they say, Is Saul also among the prophets? And Dawood fled from Naioth in Ramah, and came and said before Jonathan, What have I done? What is mine iniquity? And what is my sin before thy father, that he seeketh my life? And he said unto him, God forbid, thou shalt not die. Behold, my father will do nothing, either great or small, but he will show it me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. And Dawood swore moreover, and said, Thy father certainly knoweth that I have found grace in thine eyes. And he saith, Let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as God is a noun and verb liveth, and as thy soul liveth, there is but a step between me and death. And Jonathan said unto Dawood, Come and let us go out into the field. And they went out both of them into the field. And Jonathan said to Dawood, God is a noun and verb, God of Israel. When I have sounded my father about tomorrow any time, are the third day, and behold, if there be any good toward Dawood, and I then send not unto thee, and show it thee, God is a noun and verb, do so and much more to Jonathan. But if it please my father to do thee evil, then I will show it thee, and send thee away, and that thou mayest go in peace, and God is a noun and verb, be with thee, as he hath been with my father. Thou shalt go down quickly and come to the place where thou didst hide thyself when the business was in hand, and thou shalt remain by the stone Ezel, and I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof, as though I shot at a mark. And behold, I will send a lad, saying, Go and find the arrows. If I expressly say to the lad, Behold, the arrows are on this side of thee, take them, then come thou, for there is peace to thee and no hurt, but God, as God is a noun and verb, liveth. But if I say thus unto the young man, Behold, the arrows are beyond thee, go thy way, for God is a noun and verb, hath sent thee away. And as touching the matter which thou and I have spoken of, behold, God is a noun and verb, be between thee and me forever. So Dawood hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come... Now, do they mean the new moon? The dark, or do they mean the starting of the new month with the crescent? I'd have to see the word. The king set him down to eat meat, and the king sat upon his seat, or as at other times, even upon a seat at the wall. And Jonathan arose. Abner sat by Saul's side, and Dawood's place was empty. And Shaul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he said unto him, Thou son of the perverse, rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Yesse to be thine own confusion, and unto the confusion of thy mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Yesse liveth upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Wherefore now send and fetch him unto me, for he shall surely die. And Jonathan answered Shaul his father, and said unto him, Wherefore shall he be slain? What hath he done? And Shaul cast a javelin at him to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay Dawood. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger, and did eat no meat the 2nd day of the month, for he was grieved for Dawood, because his father had done him shame. And it came to pass in the morning that Jonathan went out into the field at the time appointed with Dawood, and a little lad with him. And he said unto his lad, Run, find out now the arrows which I shoot. And as the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the lad was come to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried after the lad, and said, Is not the arrow beyond thee? And Jonathan cried after the lad, Make speed, haste, stay not. And Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows, and came to his master. But the lad knew not anything, only Jonathan and Dawood knew the matter. And Jonathan gave his artillery unto the lad, and said unto him, Go and carry them to the city. And as soon as the lad was gone, Dawood rose out of a place toward the south, and fell on his face to the ground, and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed one another, and wept one with another, until Dawood exceeded. And Jonathan said to Dawood, Go in peace, for as much as we have sworn both of us in the name of God as a noun and verb, saying, God is a noun and verb, be between me and thee, and between my seed and thy seed forever. And he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city to fly to Dawood. Then came Dawood to Nob and Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of Dawood, and said unto him, Why art thou alone, and no man with thee? And Dawood said unto Ahimelech the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee, and what I have commanded thee, and I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Now therefore, what is under thine hand, give me 5 loaves of bread in mine hand, are what there is present. And the priest answered Dawood and said, There is no common bread under mine hand, but there is hollowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. And Dawood answered the priest and said unto him, Of a truth, women have been kept from us these 3 days since I came out, and the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common, yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. So the priest gave him hollowed bread, for there was no bread but the showbread that was taken from before God as a noun and verb, to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. Now a certain man of the servants of Shaul was there that day, and attained before God as a noun and verb. His name was Doeg, maybe it was Dog or something like that, an Edomite, not sure how that breaks down, but the chiefest of the herdsmen that belonged to Saul. And Dawood said to Ahimelech, And is there not here under thine hand spear or sword? For I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. And the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom thou slewest in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here, wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If thou wilt take that, take it, for there's no other save that here. And Dawood said, There is none like that, give it me. And Dawood arose and fled that day for fear of Shaul, and went to Achish, the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said unto him, Is not this Dawood the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Shaul hath slain his thousands, and Dawood his 10,000s? And Dawood laid up these words in his heart, and was sore afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. And he changed his behavior before them, and feigned himself mad in their hands, and scrabbled on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard. Then said Achish unto his servants, Lo, ye see the man is mad. Wherefore then have ye brought him to me? Have I need of madmen, that ye have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? Dawood therefore departed thence, and escaped to the cave Adullam. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thither to him. And every one that was in distress, and every one that was in doubt, and every one that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them. And there were with him about 400 men. And when Shaul heard that Dawood was discovered, and the men that were with him, now Shaul abode in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear upon his hand, and all servants were standing about him. Then Shaul said unto his servants that stood about him, Hear now, O Benjamin, how do you say the ites part? Will the son of Yeshua give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, that all of you have conspired against me, and there is none that showeth me that any that showeth that my son hath made a league with the son Yesa, and there is none of you that is sorry for me, or showeth unto me that my son hath stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait, as at this day. Then answered Dog the how do you say Edomite? But Edomite, which was set over the servants of Shaul, and said, I saw the son of Yesha coming to Nob, and to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, and he inquired of God as noun and verb for him, and gave him victuals, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. And then the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priests that were in Nob, and they came all of them to the king. And Shaul said, Hear now, the son of Ahitub. And he answered, Here am I, my lord. And Shaul said unto him, Why have ye conspired against me, thou and the son of Yeseh, and that thou hast given him bread and a sword, and hast inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me to lie in wait, as at this day? Then Ahimelech answered the king and said, And who is so faithful among all thy servants as Dawood, which is the king's son-in-law, and goeth at thy bidding, and is honorable in thine house? Did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Be it far from me. Let not the king impute anything unto his servant, nor to all the house of my father, for thy servant knew nothing of all this, less or more. And then the king said, Thou shalt surely die, Ahimelech, thou and all thy father's house. And the king said unto the footmen that stood about him, Turn and slay the priests of God as noun and verb, because their hand also is with Dawood, and because they knew when he fled, and did not show it to me. But the servants of the king would not put forth their hand to fall upon the priest of God as noun and verb. And the king said to Dog, Turn thou and fall upon the priest. And Dog, the Aramin, turned, and he fell upon the priests, and slew them, and slew on that day 85 persons that did wear a linen ephod. And Nob, the city of the priests, smote he with the edge of the sword, both men and women, children, and sucklings, and oxen, and donkeys, and sheep, with the edge of the sword. And one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after Dawood. And Abiathar showed Dawood that Shaul had slain God as noun and verbs priests. And Dawood said unto Abiathar, I knew it that day when Dog the Aramin was there, that he would surely tell Shaul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of thy father's house. Abide thou with me, fear not, for he that seeketh my life seeketh thy life. But with me thou shalt be in safeguard. Then they told Dawood, saying, Behold, the Philistine fight against the Keilah, and they rob the threshing floors. Therefore Dawood inquired of God as a noun and verb, saying, Shall I go and smite these Paleshtanim? And God as a noun and verb said unto Dawood, Go and smite the Pelush, Tanim, and save Keilah. And Dawood's men said unto him, Behold, we be afraid here in Yehuda. How much more then if we come unto Keilah against the armies of the Paleshtinim? Then Dawood inquired of God as noun and verb yet again, and God as noun and verb answered him and said, Arise and go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Paleshtinim into thine hand. So Dawood and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Paleshtinim, and brought away their cattle and smote them with a great slaughter. So Dawood saved the inhabitants of Keilah, and was told Shaul that Dawood was come to Keilah. And Shaul said, God hath delivered him into mine hand, for he is shut in by entering into a town that hath gates and bars. And Shaul called all the people together to war, to go down to Keilah, and to besiege Dawood and his men. Then said Dawood, God is noun and verb, God of Israel, thy servant, hath certainly heard that Shaul seeketh to come to Keilah, to destroy the city for my sake. Will the men of Keilah deliver me up into his hand? Will Shaul come down, as thy servant hath heard? Oh, God is noun and verb, God of Israel, I beseech thee, tell thy servant. And God is noun and verb said, he will come down. Okay, what's this? Then said Dawood, will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Shaul? And God is noun and verb said, they will deliver thee up. And some of the K's are really, Q's. Then Dawood said unto his men, which were about 600, arose and departed out of Keilah, and they went whithersoever they could. And Dawood abode in the wildernesses, in strongholds, and remained in a mountain in the wilderness of Ziph. And Shaul sought him every day, but God delivered him not into his hand. Then came up the Zippim to Shaul to Gibeah, saying, doth not Dawood hide himself with us in strongholds, in the wood, in the hill of Hachilah, which is on the south of Yeshimon? Now therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of thy soul to come down, and our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand. And Shaul said, Blessed be ye of God as a noun and verb, for he hath come passion on me. Go, I pray you, prepare yet, and know and see the place where his haunt is, and who hath seen him there. For it is told me that he dealeth very subtly. See therefore, and take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hideth himself, and come ye again to me with the certainty, and I will go with you. And it shall come to pass, if he be in the land, that I will search him out throughout all the thousands of Judah. And they arose and went to Ziph before Shaul, but Dawood and his men were in the wilderness of Ma'an, in the plain on the south of Jeshimon. Shaul also and his men went to seek him, and they told Dawood. Wherefore he came down into a rock and abode in the wilderness of Ma'an, And when Shaul heard that, he pursued after Dawood in the wilderness of Ma'an, and Shaul went on the side of the mountain, and Dawood and his men on that side of the mountain, and Dawood made haste to get away for fear of Shaul, for Shaul and his men compassed Dawood and his men round about to take them. But there came a messenger unto Shaul, saying, Haste thee and come, for the Palestinians have invaded the land. Wherefore Shaul returned from pursuing after Dawood, and went against the Palestinians. Therefore they called that place Salah Amalekoth. And Dawood went from thence, and dwelt in strongholds at En-gedi. And it came to pass, when Shaul was returned from following the Palestinians, that it was told him, Behold, Dawood is in the wilderness of En-gedi. Then Shaul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and went to seek Dawood and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way, where was a cave, and Shaul went to cover his feet, and Dawood and his men remained in the sides of the cave. And the men of Dawood said unto him, Behold, the day of which God as a noun and verb said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. And then Dawood arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily. And it came to pass afterward that Dawood's heart smote him, because he had cut off Shaul's skirt. And he said unto his men, God is a noun and verb, forbid that I should do this thing unto my master. God is a noun and verb's Messiah. To stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing that he is the anointed of God as a noun and verb. So Dawood wasn't the Messiah yet. So Dawood stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Shaul. But Shaul rose up out of the cave, and went on his way. Dawood also arose afterward, and went out of the cave, and cried after Shaul, saying, My lord the king. And when Shaul looked behind him, Dawood stooped with his face to the earth, and bowed himself. And I guess I'm going to have to stop there.